One of the fun things about growing your own garden from seed is watching your seedlings grow and get larger. But what happens when they are too large for the container that you put the seed in, and what happens if it's still cold outside and you're not ready to plant in your garden yet? Today I'm going to show you how you can, what we call, pot up your seedlings into a larger pot, and I'm going to show you also how you can save some money and double essentially the amount of plants that you're going to be planting. Or if you're going to have a sale, you can sell your plants or give them away to a friend. You're in the garden with Patrick. So when you plant your seeds, oftentimes these are my cherry tomatoes. Oftentimes you'll plant 2 or 3 seeds, as we showed in a previous video. I'll put a link to that video in the description box on how you can plant your own seeds. But oftentimes you'll plant 2 or 3 seeds in a little cell, and what happens is sometimes only one seed will germinate, or sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 in the same cell. So you have different options of what you're going to do once you have these grow. So what I'm going to show you today is how we can take these seedlings in these smaller cells, and we're going to pot them up into a larger pot until we're able to transfer them out into our garden or into a larger container if you're going to container garden. So as you can see here, this is a cell that had 2 of the tomato plants or seeds. They germinated and they're growing. So when I seeded them, I planted them a little bit separated apart. So that way, if they did have more than one that germinated, you are able to separate this. I'm going to show you how you can do that really easy, and you're not going to harm the plant. But in a lot of the cases, what happens is you only have one that is in a cell that of the seeds that germinated. So let's show you that one, how we're going to do that first, and then we'll go ahead and show you how we're going to separate those plants. So in these containers, you're just going to kind of loosen the soil around the sides, and then you're just going to gently pull and separate that from the cell. Now, if you can take a look here, look at the root structure on this particular tomato plant. And this again is my cherry tomato, the Sweet 100, but look at the amount of roots that we have on this all over. And so this is going to be a great plant that we're just going to pop right into our larger pot. So we're going to take that, and I put a little bit of soil here inside of our larger pot. So again, this will allow this to grow a little bit better. So we're going to take this and just gently set this right in here. And remember, tomato plants you can plant a little bit deeper, so I'm going to plant this just a little bit deeper, and I'm going to fill this in with my homemade potting soil. I'm going to put a link below on how to make your own potting soil. You can save a lot of money, especially when you have a lot of these different plants that you're going to be potting up. You can make your own garden soil or your potting soil for a fraction of the cost, and really, really inexpensive and really easy to do too. So that's all you pretty much do. So this is what we call potting up. I'm taking my tomato plant from a smaller cell, we're putting it in a larger cell, and then this is going to grow, and then it should be ready to plant out in the garden in another maybe 2-3 weeks, or maybe another month when it gets a little bit warmer. So depending on what your zone is, you're going to plant after the last freeze of the year. I'll put a link below on how you can find your own zone when your last frost is, but again, it's real simple. You just Google it. Now let's talk about how you can separate these plants. Really very simple also in the same sense. So we're going to show you here this second one where we have the 2 plants here, okay, and you can see same thing. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to loosen the soil around, and then I'm just going to gently pull these out. I planted these in January, the 29th of January, and these are my Brandywine heirlooms, And again, you can see here the structure and the nice root structure that we have. So these are going to be really, really nice. Now, what I do want to show you, I'm going to zoom in here just a second and show you a little bit how you're going to be able to separate this a little bit easier. So we have our 2 plants in the 1 cell that we have. And again, you see the nice, beautiful root structure here. I would recommend that you wet your cells and have them really wet, because this makes the process a lot easier. And what you're just going to do, don't be afraid. You're just gently going to pull these apart. You're going to feel some of the roots just kind of come apart. Some of them will be breaking, but again, it's not going to hurt your tomato plants. And that's how easy it is. So now once I've taken this and I've had my 2 now out of this 1 cell, I'm going to place those inside a larger pot. And we're going to take that and fill that up with our soil. And now that's going to grow in the next couple of weeks. We're going to fertilize this just like you would normally every maybe 7 to 14 days. When you do fertilize, you want to make sure that you're watering from the bottom. You don't want to usually water from the top, number 1. And number 2, the other thing that I would highly recommend is that you use a water-soluble fertilizer, but you make sure that you're going to dilute it quite a bit, because we don't want to burn these new seedlings. So we have 1 here, and then we have our other plant that we're going to just gently place. And again, if you can see here, we still have quite a bit of the root structure in place. We're just going to place that into our pot. And now out of 1 cell, we have made 2 tomato plants. Now, if you're lucky and if you're not doing this from seeds, and you're just going to purchase some from the store, you might be able to purchase 1. If you really look, you'll be able to find some of the plants that are in the garden center, or your big box stores. Some of the plants that you're going to purchase like this may have 2 plants inside of it, and that's where you're going to again do the same technique, and you'll have a great outcome with having 2 different tomato plants coming from this the same cell. So that's a great way of saving some money, because especially these are costing a lot of money these days, and you just don't know what you're getting. Don't forget to label your tomato plant. Potting up your seedlings is very easy and should not be intimidating. As you saw today, how easy it was to take your seedlings. If you're maybe using one of these 72 cell, I have a lot of transplants that I have to do. These are my bell peppers that I'm going to be transplanting and potting up. Or maybe you have some larger cells that you're using here. Or you can also use these even larger cells. But again, at some point you're going to have to pot these up a little bit. If you're in a warm or colder zone, you're going to transplant them out after the first frost. So, or the last frost, I guess I should say. So we're going to go from something like this into something that's a little bit larger. In a few weeks, this is going to be a larger plant and should be stronger and ready to go back into our garden and produce some wonderful fruit. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you'll see the updates on not only these seedlings that I've potted up, but also when we're going to plant these into the garden in just in a couple short weeks when it gets a little bit warmer. And hopefully we'll have a beautiful 2023 garden, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do that, and also like this video if you found some content that was helpful for you. Until next time, happy gardening.